and thanks for staying with us on Assets Television. Welcome to the news. I am Eugenia Solomon. First, the headlines. Troops neutralize kidnappers in Taraba, arrest 3 suspects. Northern governors plead for quick restoration of power in the region. Fct combs Abuja streets, arrest several beggars along AYA Nyanya corridor. And now the news in detail. Troops of the 6th Brigade Nigerian Army Jalingo in Taraba State burst a kidnap syndicate and arrested 3 suspects in a targeted operation to curb criminal activities in the state. In a statement released by the Acting Assistant Director, 6th Brigade Army Public Relations Officer Olubodunde Oni, the troops from the 6th Brigades and Sector 3 Operation Wellstroke during the operation successfully dismantled the notorious kidnapping syndicate that had been terrorizing Jalingo and Lao local government areas. According to the statement made available to journalists in Jalingo, the troops acting on credible intelligence first apprehended 2 suspects, Ali Idi and Haruna Umar, on October 22, 2024, during a raid on a hotel in the Mayo Dasa area of Jalingo. According to the statement, a search of their mobile phones uncovered incriminating evidence, including a photograph of Haruna holding AK-47 rifle alongside an unidentified accomplice. Still in the news, the chairman of the Northern States Governors Forum, NSGF Governor Inua Yahaya of Gombe State, has called for decisive action on insecurity, youth unemployment, and economic hardship facing the North as Northern governors and traditional rulers convened for a 2-day meeting in Kaduna. Addressing an audience, Yahaya expressed condolences to victims of recent flooding in Maiduguri and the tanker explosion in Jigawa, as well as families affected by terrorism and banditry across northern Nigeria. He urged increased collaboration with the federal government to deliver essential relief and support to affected communities. Governor Yahaya highlighted the region's persistent challenges, including terrorism, kidnapping, and farmer-herder conflicts, emphasizing the need to strengthen security efforts and not become complacent. According to Yahaya, and I quote, "We cannot afford complacency. We must sustain gains against bandits and terrorists to ensure lasting peace. Recommendations from the coalition of northern groups' security committees would be thoroughly examined." End of quote. The governor also stressed the importance of addressing youth restiveness, linking it to illiteracy, poverty, and limited economic opportunities. The meeting, attended by northern governors and traditional rulers, seeks to unify efforts across the region to address security, economic, and developmental challenges facing northern Nigeria. Now, the governors of the 19 northern states have called for the diversification of energy following persistent blackouts in 17 states of the region recently. Apart from Niger and Kwara, 17 states in the north are without electricity supply in the last 2 weeks. The worst affected are Kaduna, Kano, Jigawa, Gombe, and Katsina, who have not had supply in the last 2 weeks. Others are Sokoto, Zamfara, Bauchi, Yobe, Borno, Adamawa, Taraba, Niger, Plateau, Nasarawa, Kogi, and Benue states. As part of efforts to resolve the issue, the governor of Gombe State, Yahaya, who is also the chairman of the Northern States Governors Forum, convened a joint meeting involving the 18 other governors from the region and traditional rulers in Kaduna State. Sultan of Sokoto and chairman of the Northern Traditional Rulers Council, Saad Abubakar III, and other prominent monarchs from the region, including Shehu of Borno Umar El Kanemi, Emir of Zazzau Nuhu Bamali, Ohinoi of Ebira Land, Esunupe, Yahaya Abubakar, Emir of Kazaure, and Emir of Bauchi were also in attendance. The governors and monarchs called on the federal government to address the electricity currently The governors and monarchs called on the federal government to address the current electricity power blackout in northern states, as well as invest in additional transmission lines and diversify energy supply to ensure improved electricity supply. Now, the Federal Capital Territory Administration has launched a sweeping crackdown on beggars, scavengers, and street vendors, with 34 individuals detained across various parts of Abuja. This action followed a recent ministerial directive ordering such individuals to leave the Fcta. The operation, conducted by a joint task force comprising the police, military, Department of State Services, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, and other paramilitary agencies, targeted 4 major cities: City Center, Airport Road, Kubwa, Gwarimpa area, and Asokoro Nyanya Karo corridor. The Fcta Commissioner of Police Olatunji Disu described the clampdown as a national assignment, directing officers to enforce the mandate with professionalism and resolve. According to the Director of Security at the Mugwari, the Fcta plans to carry out the operation both day and night over 2 weeks. Gwari, represented by Peter Olumuji, noted that 15 beggars and 19 scavengers were arrested across other zones, adding that many beggars in the city center had gone into hiding. Access Television News will continue shortly after the break. Stay with us.
Welcome to Access Television, your best station for news, politics, business, sports and entertainment. Your one-stop channel, Access Television.
Well, many thanks for staying tuned. You are still watching the news on Access Television. Now the news continues. Expectations are high as members of the Nigeria Union of Journalists Fcta Council prepare to head to the polls to elect their new council officials. Members of the union are hopeful that the election will be peaceful as they canvass to enthrone credible candidates that will manage the affairs of the Fcta Council. Some of them spoke with Access Television on their expectations.
NUJ election is coming up in the next couple of weeks. What will be your expectation as we approach the election?
Yeah, my expectation is that the process should be transparent. The process should be transparent enough and they should follow the procedure as it was stipulated in the Constitution, whereby you allow the will of the people to prevail. We don't want a situation whereby there's going to be a kind of manipulation in the process. Let the process be transparent enough, whereby the will of the people will prevail whenever the election is going to be conducted, and follow the procedure to the letter. The crisis was triggered because of the fact that some people were trying to manipulate the process, and they are trying to bend the rule. They are trying to shift the goal posts in the middle of the game, and which is against the Constitution, because when you have a legal framework that is guiding the conduct of any process, so you don't go against it. So it was an attempt by few individuals to manipulate the process. That is the reason why you see people shouting on top of on their voices and insisting that the process, the right thing must be done. And that was what led to that, what would I call it, kind of like a small crisis. Well, I'm looking forward for a very good, vibrant NUJ, a union that will be able to assert its independence, a union that will be able to fight for its member where necessary, when necessary, a union that will not be a stooge, a union that will not be a puppet, a union that will not be an appendage of the state, a union that will be able to stick out its neck and assert its independence for its member, for the welfare and for the interest of its member. So that is the union that we are looking at this time around.
My expectations are, I expect to see transparency. I expect to see transparency. I expect to see transparency. The whole idea is that the people have the right to choose. Choice is a function of the individual. Of course, people are expected to go out and campaign. People are expected to go out and cast their votes. People are expected to go out and say, I have this and this and this and this as part of my agenda. But the bottom line is that that can only come to fruition if at the end of the day, transparency is given its pride of place. In most democratic dispensations, and what leads to crisis in electioneering campaigns, electioneering sessions and what have you, is where there is, perceived lack of transparency. I can assure you, where that happens to be the issue, you should expect all manner of litigations thereafter. But it actually don't have to be same. Why? Because indeed, the voice of the people is the voice of God. I want to see an NUJ that is people-centered. I want to see an NUJ where sacrifice, where unionism is the mainstay. I want to see a union where unity is the mainstay. I want to see a union where we are one for all and all for one. Divisions across any fault lines should not be the case as far as unionism is concerned. I can assure you we're educated, we're trained. If we are truly professionals in unions like ours, there should be little indeed or no crisis. So the bottom line is that the earlier we come together, that is the only way that we can be the searchlight of the society. You can't claim to be the fourth estem of the realm, which is constitutionally provided for in the Nigerian constitution, and at the end of the day, it is lackluster. At the end of the day, there's very little to show for same. The bottom line is that it is only a journalist that can lead the country and hold those in power and those who are being led to highest of standards. I must be very honest with you. I don't want to mince words. As far as I am concerned, I don't see much. It's been lackluster. There hasn't been what we used to know the union to be. It appears self-centeredness. It appears the me, myself, and I have taken center stage. Same not need to be the case. I sure do have a preferred candidate. And who is this candidate? Grace Ike is my preferred candidate. I can assure you, Grace is someone I've known for close to 20 years. She has worked with me. I have seen her capacity. Grace is a go-getter. We need a change as far as the dynamics of the NUJ Council in the FCT is concerned.
Well, my expectation is that a woman should take the mantle of leadership as far as NUJ FCT is concerned this time around. We have had a lot of the men, as chairman in this FCT, but they have not done noble to the council. Of course, I'm highly disappointed because these men that have been ruling us are not really meeting up with the expectation of the union. They do things, them, which is not supposed to be. And FCT Nawajians, all the women journalists in FCT, they have endorsed Grace. They have endorsed, not just because she's a woman like us, because of her antecedent at the National Assembly, where she was the chairperson at the House of Rep. This girl is a girl that doesn't eat alone. Whatever she gets, she share it among the members of the union at the National Assembly. That is why everybody wants her. She's a mother in Israel.
The expectation is that we will do our thing the way we usually do it. The Nigeria Union of Journalists is known for organizing election that changes its administration, and this time it will be for better. We've had elections here where people get into office and they serve. Some serve creditably, some also disappointed us. But this time around, the council is looking forward to an election that will produce people that will work for the welfare interests of members, and it is so going to happen that way, because from what is on the ground, the aspirants will see are people who we believe will deliver the council from its stage now.
We come up to take charge of the council, and I've seen some of them, including a female amongst them, as capable hands. These are young, intelligent people.
We have been working very hard to ensure that the NUJ follows its own constitution. Before now, NUJ is going about, NUJ, the way they've been going about their affairs is to subvert their own constitution. But at this point, we want NUJ to follow strictly the constitution that they reviewed in Kano. And that constitution, if they don't follow it, that means things will not go well. No matter whose ox is God, the NUJ must field people. The people that are in NUJ who are constitutionally qualified to be members of NUJ are the people who are, one, they must occupy the credentials committee. Two, they must be the ones to be elected. This means that if you are not qualified, the NUJ at every level, at every section of the Constitution, Article 3 says that you must have either a postgraduate diploma, or you must have a diploma if you have practiced for a number of years, which the Constitution stipulates. And therefore, what this implies is that the NUJ must stick to its constitution, and where they do not stick to its constitution, we will do certain things to ensure that the people, the NUJ members, will hold strictly to their constitution. And that is the only thing we want. Should they go beyond or beside their constitution to go and get some other person, we will now call them back and say, let the constitution hold sway. What is going on in the NUJ, you know, when it comes to election time, sentiments will prevail. But in this period, there are concerned members of the council, because this council is populated by, yes, this council is populated by people who are no members. And these no members are the people who, because of their population, the constitution stipulates that if you want to be a member, there are certain criteria that you must follow. There are certain constitutional provisions that you must comply to. And if you don't comply, if you don't abide by those constitutions, you are not a member. For instance, the NUJ constitution says, for you to be a member, the National Secretariat must approve your membership. Secondly, you must have paid your dues. Thirdly, you must have been read, if you must have read mass communication or journalism in any of the recognized institutions. And fourthly, if you do not read any of you read other degrees, you have to have a postgraduate diploma in journalism or mass communication. And therefore, for you to aspire or to be a member of the credentials committee, you must comply to these stipulations of the constitution of NUJ. Any other thing short from that, we must make sure that you do not participate in NUJ things. We do not, no matter whose horse is God, if you are not qualified, you will not participate in the election. If they have nominated you based on sentiment, we will make sure you leave the place. And that is what NUJ stands for. In this.
Well, those were some members of the NUJ Abuja FCT Council bearing their minds on what they expect as the outcome of the election. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control (NAFDAC) has inaugurated a breast milk substitute BMS and state multi-sectoral technical committees across 32 states. The development across the report is in line with the ongoing implementation of the national strategy for the implementation of the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes in Nigeria. The agency stated that inauguration of the BMS states teams is also a reflection of the agency's renewed efforts to implement and enforce the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes and the national BMS regulations in Nigeria. Speaking at the virtual inauguration and capacity building of BMS state multi-sectoral technical committees over the weekend, Director General NAFDAC Professor Mojisola Adeye charged the teams to lead the efforts in their respective states to ensure full compliance with the provisions of the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes and the national BMS regulations. The International Finance Corporation (IFC) and the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) have joined forces to boost local currency financing in Nigeria. This partnership aims to empower private businesses across key sectors including agriculture, housing, infrastructure, energy, small and medium enterprises, and the creative and youth economy. The agreement will enable the IFC to manage currency risks and increase its investment in Nigerian naira with a goal of providing over 1 billion naira in financing over the coming years. Governor Yemi Cardoso of the Central Bank of Nigeria hailed the initiative, stating that it will unlock much-needed long-term local currency financing for private businesses in Nigeria at economically viable rates. Mukhtar Diop, IFC Managing Director, noted that this partnership will enhance lending in naira and support job creation across the country, stressing that with an active portfolio of investment in Nigeria worth 2.13 billion naira, the second highest in Africa, local currency financing is a top priority for IFC. The CBN serves as Nigeria's sole monetary authority regulating and overseeing the country's monetary and financial systems. The IFC, as a member of the World Bank Group, focuses on the private sector in emerging markets, working in over 100 countries to create markets and opportunities. The partnership is expected to have a significant impact on Nigeria's economy, advancing the federal government's agenda for economic diversification. Now, suspected hoodlums have reportedly broken into a newly constructed police station in Ugbine community, Ovia Northeast local government area of Edo State. The hoodlums were reported to have carted away furniture, electrical cables, and fittings. The station was said to have been built through communal efforts and was yet to be commissioned for use at the time of filing this report. An elder in Ubine community, Pa Sunday Yoha, condemned the vandalism, noting that the police station was constructed to tackle insecurity in the locality. Angered over the development, elders of the community engaged the services of traditional priests to invoke curses on individuals involved in the boggled station. The traditional worshippers were said to have marched through the community, slaughtering animals at strategic locations. The Edo State Police Command spokesman, SP Moses Yamo, said operatives have received the report of the incident, adding that investigations have commenced. Now, in the world of sports, the Atlanta and Super Eagles forward Ademola Lookman has been ranked as the 14th best player in the world as released by Ballon d'Or. Now the Super Eagles star guaranteed himself a nomination after he led Atlanta to their first European title, scoring a hat-trick in the Europa League final. Lookman had earlier expressed his excitement. The list of those nominated include Cole Palmer, Florian Wirtz, Dino Olma, Ademola Lookman, Nico Williams, Grant Xhaka, I beg your pardon, Federico Lavrende, amongst others. We end the news at this hour. On behalf of the news crew, I am Eugenia Solomon, thanking you all for listening. Don't forget to join and follow us on all our social media handles. Good evening and many thanks for watching.